Hi everyone, and welcome to your teacher training. I wanted to jump in. So this is the teaching framework for looking at teaching fractions. So this is going to be a PowerPoint slide that you're going to be watching, and everything in here is going to be editable. So I wanted to walk you through different bits and pieces of how you can go through and actually edit this. You can use it as it is. You can save it as a PDF. The size of this is actually A4. So if you wanted to use it as a worksheet, and that way students can work together as pairs or individuals or in groups, you can even put it on A3. You can laminate it. You can use it as a teaching tool, or you can project it up onto the whiteboard. You'll be able to drag and drop things. I'm going to show you so much that you can do with this, and it'll walk you through from step by step. So how to actually use this PDF document for yourself, and then be able to duplicate. Perhaps you come up with a different concept of how to teach fractions, or you wanted to add a different component or task or text or reword things. You'll be able to do all of that. This is literally a part of the massive mega kit that I have, and I recently had this idea because I'd started to do how to do numeracy groups and how to set up your numeracy rotations, and then it came down to teaching all those concepts. We're not actually taught at university, and it's crazy. It's until you get in the classroom that you start going, okay, so I've got students that don't know how to understand the concept of fractions or time or multiplication, or how am I going to do this? And I thought I'd share my 20 years experience by just creating an ultimate maths kit. And in that maths kit will be the ongoing training, and you'll have the choice to either grab it just as a one-off for 12 months, and that will be enough for you to learn, or for a little bit more, you can have lifetime access to it, because I will keep growing and adding to it. So it's completely up to you, but I've ridiculously got it priced at like 90% off, because I want teachers to access this. Like, I want it priced for you guys to grab it. And I think based on all the amount of hours and time that I've used to do this, it's an absolute bargain. And this is going to help reduce your stress and time around planning and figuring out how, and give you like a baseline to start with, and then you can make it better, give it your flavor, do what you want to do, change the theme, do whatever you want. I really think it's important that you have that opportunity to do that. So this video that you're watching is going to be part of, I've decided to do like a whole area of like a free PD session for you, and then also which will demonstrate and give you an example of what it's like inside. I've got it, I'm a little bit casual today. It was a last minute idea because I'm about to go off and do some training, which I do for a kids sport team, but I've also wanted to give you a copy of what you're going to watch. You actually get a free download of full copy of this PDF document for yourself to be able to use. So you can go like, okay, I really like this, and just sample it before you jump in and purchase it. I thought it might be a nice idea. So this is just a little note from me, and just giving you some advice around how to use the kit. And like I say, with everything, I often do, I often say, you hear me say, don't take or replace your opinion with someone else's. Use what you find, take bits and pieces from everything, and then give it your flavor. And sometimes some people are just wanting to, and I know I just wanted to build my confidence and knowledge around a concept, and I would literally mimic what I was told, and then when I felt confident, I changed and tweaked it up as I went later on. So have fun, bring your flavor. I apologize if you see spelling mistakes. For those of you that know me and know my story, I was in a car accident, I try not to mention it anymore, about 4 years ago, and I've got a residual brain injury that I slowly have been working through for 4 years, and I'm almost back. I hope. I sort of have my days and my moments, but anyway, less about that and more about this. But there's a reason if you see me yawn, and my spelling and my grammar, it can play up a little bit. So I do apologize, and I encourage you to reach out and connect with me. Let me know about that, but it's definitely not done intentional. Nor does it reflect my intellectual capability. So I love and respect and appreciate your understanding with that. What I wanted to explain here in the language support and conditioning, what's most important when you're collecting that prior knowledge is that students have conditioning. Now, conditioning with my training around NLP, and for those of you that also know, I'm also becoming a life coach and doing emotional intimacy, and I do neuro-linguistic programming, and I've learned how to help rewire my brain, and I essentially rebuilt my brain in my own recovery. And so it's helped me a lot. It's helped me so much to understand even more, because I had so much experience and knowledge around students with special learning requirements and also learning difficulties. And so if I briefly explain just the idea of conditioning. So everybody has their own conditioning. It's as unique as a fingerprint. And if you can remember that when you're planning or teaching, and so you can actually plan for a general overview. So over 80% or roughly 80% of a group will learn either through kinesthetic, which is by feel and touch and your senses, by touching, sorry. And then you've also got visual, and you've got auditory. And so it's between those two. If you can plan for those two, you're going to cover 80% of your class, which is brilliant. With the language and support, you're going to need to find out what students know about, and I'll introduce and show you what I'm talking about in a minute. They have conditioning around specific words. They have meaning behind words based on their culture, their family, their family's beliefs, their own experiences, their own sensory of the world, and their own what we call filters. So when everybody has a view of the world, everybody has a filter, and they see it through different ways. Do you ever experience the same event and someone else can just see it so differently? It's because of the different filters that we have. Sorry, I can't see through my glasses. And so being aware of the conditioning that everybody comes to the table with a different reality and different understanding and meanings to different concepts, words, symbols. I often get you as part of the pre-learning is that the collection of the pre, sorry, my daughter's texting me just as I'm watching, so I'm distracted. So when you're collecting their prior knowledge, they're going to have conditioning that you don't know about. So it's best to say, right, what does this mean? And you'll see what I mean in a minute. So what's everybody, and have a clear understanding and direction so we all understand that everyone has a different meaning around this. But in the context of maths right now, this is this symbol, so the love heart, which is one I use as an example coming out. This is what this is going to mean in the context of maths. But I validate and I respect that this could mean something else for you, and we have a discussion around that. The reason I do is because it creates respect. It demonstrates values of collaboration, which is something I talk about in my behavior management masterclass. And there's a whole lot of other reasons that I do that. So here you got your collective prior knowledge, you got discuss all meanings, examples of a fraction, parts of. So when we're talking about language, you want to be able to language what fractions means and use interchangeable terms, explore them, why you need to know this and how it links to previous work. So when we're looking at fractions, I always get you to have some work done behind percentages. And then you're going to have coming up decimals, and they've got decimals, fractions, and percentages that interweave and lock together. And that's the way you can sort of culminate that activity at the end. Constructing a problem and then applying a new concept, you do it all together. So model, guided, independent. At the end, I like to discuss all the things that were fun and then one stretch that you've learned. And I call them a stretch because if I actually talk about like the brain physically stretching, and that can feel like, uncomfortable and weird and, exciting and unknown and scary. And it's all these different things, that's what a stretch is. But it's basically our brain learning. So here we're going to be talking about learning and scaffolding. I will go through all of this, each of the different components. So like we said, using terms interchangeably with your language, collect the different types of words, and I'll explain that in a minute when you see a couple of the activities. So just think about this, explore why you needed to know it, so making predictions about real life. And so this is in relation specifically to fractions. This one earlier was just talking about here, this one here, just talking about the learning in general. And down here, what have I got? Sorry, discuss anchor charts. Queen of anchor charts. And I often talk about this in my other videos. So while I love Instagram and I see all the beautiful classrooms out there, mine looks very, very different. Mine's very student orientated, and I have my students do the anchor charts. A, because they're more engaging. B, they use them like 50% more than they ever would. B, I value student input. I love collaboration. I value teamwork. And I just feel that it just ignites the learning, keeps the learning engagement, and just has a really, just something that resonates with my teaching pedagogy, that how students write it down, it's going to instill in them, it's going to build memory retention, and I'm celebrating them and having it up in the rooms rather than my work. Yeah, I want their work up. Okay, so this is how I would introduce fractions. How can we split the cake? Why am I using cake? Cake relates to students. Most students can understand they can relate to the context. So we're teaching a concept that's new, but we're going to use a context that's known. That's just how I teach, full stop, and I highly, highly, highly suggest it. The other thing I always do is start with deconstructing something that they know, even though it's a new concept, the content is familiar. Okay, I often get those two jumbled up, but I've got it right there. So everybody can understand or can relate to cutting a cake. Now I'm talking about splitting the cake. What does split mean? Okay, and so nice yummy piece of cake. So I've got a rainbow cake here. I wanted to bring up the fact that some students are going to be colorblind. So selecting this may not work and selecting green may not work. So I wanted to show you how I actually edit the fact. Let me just move. You can't see, but I've got some things here for my recording. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the color. I like to stick to black and white and grays. Here we go. We've got shape fill over here. You might want to do a nice big bright purple. Purple is not often a color that's found to be colorblind. It's more your oranges and your greens. You can also just make it purely black if you wanted to, or like a dark charcoal. It's completely up to you, but cutting a cake. If they want to make it a color, you just need to make sure that everybody can see it. And so we talk about here, how can we split the cake? And I get the students to come up. Now, if this is on a whiteboard and if you don't have an interactive whiteboard, you can get this and put it on A3 laminate A3, put it on the board and you get your whiteboard marker and you're gonna do it. You're gonna split it. What does split mean? What does split mean? How many times can we split it? And then, you know, talking about equal splitting, you know, would it be fair? What does equal mean? You know, can you split something and by splitting, does that mean it's equal? If you halve something, does halving mean equal? You know, and having just these general conversations, that's what I encourage you to do, because you're going to be understanding where the students are at, right? And then you're going to be finding out the language they're learning, and then you're going to learn how to interchange the different concepts of fractions and halves and all their language. You're going to start layering on top their learning and then closing the gap in that learning by using a context they know, and it's a new concept that you know you're coming up to teach. Then I get them to talk about, okay, what if the cake was a rectangle? What if it was a different shape? I think I've got there. What if it was a different shape? Sorry, my video is just crossing that over. Let me move that out there. What if it was a different shape? What do we do? Is it the same? Do you still, you know, cut it in half and what could we do? Now, when I do this, I actually use insert a table, and I will just do one like this. And when I insert the table, this allows me, because if I chose to do this concept with a higher grade and I wanted them to actually operate it, we could then talk about, I'm just clicking on this and widening it as you see. Actually, you know what you could do? You could actually just delete that, right? Let's just leave him there. Now I'm going over onto the slide here. I'm actually going to right click and I'm going to duplicate the slide. So now I have two and they're identical. What I want to do is I want to leave the first one. The second one is what I want to change. So as you saw, I inserted a table and it's one. Why do I do a table instead of like inserting a shape, as you can see up here? Because if I click in the middle here and then right click, I can then split the cell. So if I want to split this into half, you can see there it's already there. Now, if I want to do thirds, if I want to do quarters, and you want to go up to 5, you can do all that. And obviously, we're just going to start out doing it there. And this is nice and easy and quick and equal. Yes. Okay. Nice and quick and easy. Now, if I wanted to say, okay, I'm going to show you how we're going to put this into a fraction. But before we do that, let's just keep talking about stuff. What does half mean? Who can tell me what half means? And half might mean, you know, half a cake, half a biscuit. It might mean something completely different that you're not expecting. And there's no wrong and right answer. And there can be images and pictures and arrows and drawings and words and graphs and whatever it is, whatever half means. It might be half a cup full of water. Who knows? Okay. But what you want to do is celebrate their understanding of this, and you want to actually keep a screenshot of this as well, because it's going to be collecting the prior knowledge. Why I do this as a whole class is because you've got students sharing what they know. You've also got students that don't know. They don't understand what a half is. They don't understand what you're asking them. They're going to be watching it get done, so you're modeling the question. So this is going to close their gap, and you're going to ignite a little bit of learning, and like, oh yeah, if it's half a cake, it might be half a biscuit. Oh yeah, my mum said I can have half an apple. You know, they're going to be able to relate it to the context of their conditioning. And this is why I say to you, conditioning is something that you need to be aware of in your planning, and don't be closed off or restricted by your own conditioning. This is something that we talk about when you've got a map. everybody has their own map, and that's how you form your questions, your decisions, and yeah, just so much. That's something I won't overwhelm you with now. So everybody has their own conditioning. So don't let your conditioning limit what may be in a 5-year-old's brain. And it'll be amazing what you can learn, honestly. Okay. So this is where we talk about, now some students may have no idea what half is. And now we want to start looking at teaching them that, you know, how we use symbols and communicate is not only just with letters and numbers and signs. And literacy has its own little way that we talk. A literacy sentence can be something, or mathematics has its own language too. So let's just have a little think about that. Who can tell me what this says? I love you. How come you know what this is? How do you know what that is? I haven't written a word. How do you know? Oh, because it's a love heart. Okay, and what do love hearts mean? And so they're going to have all this meaning around it. Oh, because it is. And why? How can we know that's because that's the letter U, and it's short for spelling YOU, and you know they'll talk about it. Okay, and you write all the different answers all around here, what everyone writes. Okay, again, A3 laminate. You can write all the answers. I've also seen it done on a clipboard, but I don't think there's A3 clipboard, so I would absolutely laminate it. And that way you can use it over and over, or you can whack it up on the whiteboard. You can project it if you use a color print and put it on a clear projector head, then you can write on the board. Or you can simply just do, using a whiteboard, just get your text and marker and like implement these middle parts. Okay, who knows what this is? Who knows what this is? Who's ever seen this before? Okay, so hopefully you can see here that you're layering the learning. Okay, this is a math symbol. It is a fraction. Okay, and then you start talking more about it. Who can tell me what it means? And you're going to start building all the learning. So using concept maps. Now, the reason I love concept maps or mind maps or infographics, whatever you want to call them, using visual and print to represent things, and then you're discussing it with this, which is auditory, and then also you're probably using fingers and hands and ears, that's kinesthetic. You are developing and building their memory retention, and it's increasing the learning by 60%. Easy. When you use visual and print alone, it's boosting it by 60%. So, you know, throw in verbal or auditory, as well as some kinesthetic things that I've got going on. You might have some metal counters and different bits and pieces that the students use. You might have the students, you know, looking at half and you know, drawing 10 circles and circling half of them. I have no idea what they will come up with, but that's the whole idea. You want to see what they come up with. This is really, really powerful, and you can sort of see students like, oh my goodness, like, you know, they're being responsible for the learning. You're teaching independent learners. You're respecting them. They feel valued. They want to contribute. They want to be part of it, and giving them, you know, that real teamwork. And so when I'm in the beginning of the school year, I actually will say, like, I love teamwork. This is great, guys. Who else knows something? You know, and I didn't even think of that. You know, it's phenomenal. But verbally recognize and say and use the language around teamwork and all those different things that you're valuing and why you're doing it, and just helps to consolidate. What I wanted to show you was here, I find it really hard to make fractions. So I've actually used a table in this instance. So I wanted to show you how I did it. And then I wanted to talk about how we close the gap here in learning. Another really cool way is using our sticks. So, you know, and as part of your kit, you will actually get a copy of your own. So you get a copy of your own images that you'll be able to drag and drop. I've literally just clicked open my downloads folder. I've got it set up on a folder. I drag and drop it over here. Okay, I'm just going to shrink that so it's small. You're using your MAB block. So if you've been looking at doing, and this is included in the kit, you'll have trading. You'll also be looking at place values. And so they'll be familiar with this. And if you don't have the physical items, you know, you'll have the digital ones that are access to. And then we're going to have number of the day, which will relate right across, and number drills, and it goes back and forth. But this is how you teach fractions as well. Okay, because you've got, this is going to go from, you know, this is 1 and it goes down into tenths, but this is also 1. Okay, and this is also 1, but it goes into hundredths and it's got tens in here. Okay, and so you work backwards and you're still using your MAB blocks. This is a 10. And so 10 is one of these, and see how this can't be broken apart. So you can't just break 1, but if you had half of the 1, what is it? Well, that's half, and half is 50%. So you can see, I will teach you in the upcoming slides that will be built on top of this, which is still coming. You can see here, we will be looking at how we roll it across from percentages to fractions to decimals. And so, you know, the concept of 1 here. So we're going to go back here. So this is going to be the concept of 1. I just wanted to show you how I insert a fraction. Now I do a table. just need to move this out of the way. I select 2 like that, and hopefully that will slot in. I shrink that right up. I pull it over here, and I want to show the students and model it. Now I'm not going to copy and paste it until I've finished what I've done. What I want to do is, where's the table design? Sorry, I'm just going to click on the layout. No, table design. And what I want to do is the shading. So just you guys can't see, but I got some videos here. Now we want white, but then I also want the pen color to be black, and I want to do the middle border. Now I want to make sure that I've got the text in the right spot, which is in the middle. Okay, then I want to go back to home and make sure it is a good size. Oh my goodness, this is in the way. Okay, so yeah, let's do 20. So you might go, this is 1/1, and you know what? It's not in the right color. There we go. Wow, that's bold. I don't want bold. You can have bold, you can do what you want. So by removing the exterior ones, and that way if I wanted to, I can insert a column to the right. It'll be the same thing, and now I can actually merge that and make it I can actually merge it, and that gets rid of that, and then I can put the sign equals, and then I can insert another column to the right again, and then I can say that equals 1. And so if I just blend and move that out a little bit so it's spread, let me just, no, it doesn't like that. I can move this column over a little bit because I know it's there. No, let's not do that. And so you can see that equals there. Now, if I wanted to copy that or hover with the 4 squares, Command C and then Command V, so copy and then paste. And that does it there. And if you don't know how to do that, just make sure you got the 4 squares. If you right click, it'll show up how to cut, copy and paste. And so you can do there. And then this will be a really good way. So if you wanted to duplicate that slide now, right, and then here, this is why I do the tables. You want to split the cells. I'm going to split it into 2. Now you can say this is 2/2, and it still equals 1 because that's 1. Yeah. And you can have the same thing here. And then if you wanted to repeat it again, and then you might want to split it into 3. So to split into 3, I merge it again. That's just what I do. And then split it again. And it's a nice way to get it nice and quick and easy. And we're talking about 3 components. Okay. And I always talk about this bottom number with fraction. It tells you how many parts we've cut it into. How many parts have we cut this into? 3. How many are colored in is the top number, the denominator, numerator. And so, making sure that you're using the right language. I wouldn't really start using that until, if you have a look at the Australian curriculum, it really depends. I think sort of the year 2-3 mark. And it may even be a little bit later, just depending. So, having that concept and then, having the 1 to work off here, it's still 1. I haven't actually changed it. That's why it's 1. And I think it's really important to have this as like that backup so they can compare it. And even measure it, see how it lines up perfect. Allow them to have that physical manipulation. You're going to be using the physical, which is the kinesthetic, and then you've got your visual learning. And so you're going to be really, really, really supporting their learning. I often always ask the students too, like, who's got a silly question? I love silly questions. I have a rule of there's no silly questions. But you want to help students to embrace the fact that they are free to ask you any questions if they don't understand. And then the more materials you have there, the better. How else can we represent a half? Like, what is a half? And you can go back and forth between these slides. And I just think the concept's really, really going to help. Using this as a model, you can see here that there's 10 in this one, and you can see that I should probably make that go up as tall as that, shouldn't I? So that's 10. And then here you've got like 100. So it understands. So this is 100%. Okay. So 1% is 1. And, even just putting these up here, who can talk about these 3 items? I would probably do this with an upper high school class. Who can tell me about this in relation to percents? Who can tell me about this in fractions? What do you know about these three items? What are they? How do they relate to each other? Is another good question. I love talking about the relationships between 2 different items. How can we use this to figure out or learn about fractions, decimals, percentages, whatever the concept or item that you're talking about here. This slide here, and by the time you actually download this, guys, it will be have a lot more selection and what it includes. But let me just put here, so this is going to equal 3 over 3. You can see here that it's still 1. It's still all equals 1. And the reason I've got this here at the moment is because that's 10, and that's going to be the 1. And then you've got your mini cubes, and I get them to actually play with this as well when we talk about it. But the concept of 1 is this, and then you can also use it in relation to this as you start getting to, you know, perhaps decimals or more than 2-digit numbers as well. And so I want you to have fun, explore, keep the content. Okay, so the context, so what they're related to, the how you're going to teach it, keep it something that's relatable to them, and it can even come from them, and allow that. I love cupcakes. You know, I'm a really big food person. I've got marbles there. I try and keep them very unisex. I don't try and make it one or the other. I won't cut the beetle in half when we're talking about the ladybug, but we can cut, you know, cake and food, and, you know, relating to cooking is a really good option to do that. Perhaps you're building and doing bricks in a house. You know, to make sure the concept is relatable to the students, and that they can relate to the experience, then go, oh, I didn't know what that is. You know, I have been around and seen a cake cut in half. I didn't know that was half, and this is how you write half. It's a symbol. You know, maths has its own language, you know, and they'll be used to getting pluses and numbers and all that sort of stuff. And you just talk about maths has its own language. It has its own signs and symbols that we need to learn about. And so we can explain that a bit better. So that is literally walking you through and introducing you to fractions, and I hope you enjoyed that. This is really just a glimpse into the humongous maths kit and online program that I'm going to be running. You'll have the option to get it for 12 months or for lifetime. And with lifetime, it's just all the extra bits and pieces I'm going to be adding to. So it will be growing over the first 12 months, of course, or whenever you jump in and purchase it. And it's just if you choose to, at the end of 12 months, if you think you're going to be able to rock at maths and don't need any more support, go for it. And those that just want continual support for as long as you need, I just think it's a really handy option to have, and it's an extra $20, not much. So that'll be there for you as well. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Go ahead, download this document. There's going to be probably a few more in this for you to be able to download and use. And if you choose to go ahead and purchase the kit, a full explanation of walking you through this entire document. With training, you also get PD certificate for your time, so you can actually use this to evidence in your portfolio for your teacher registration, or for anything that you need to do with your PD planning. So enjoy.